The franchising journey, it continues. And today we're going to speak with Kris of ActivAge. Hey, Kris, so you're not only a client, which I appreciate, but I'm a fan and follower of you on LinkedIn and your YouTube channel. And
Appreciate
so
it.
it's fun to get to talk today on what's going to be on our YouTube channel.
It's awesome, man. I'm excited. I actually found you on YouTube. That's how I came across you and Steve Biegelman, you know?
Right, which gets to the powerful moment, right? And we're going to talk about ActivAge, your journey, franchising your business, even challenges along the way where you rebranded from Chelsea Place to what's now an amazing brand. But for everyone, the big takeaway for me as you watch this video, whether you're a franchisor or franchisee or broker, Kris is building his business organically, ActivAge, in terms of really helping others understand adult or senior living or senior care, I should say, um, building his brand and making a meaningful difference for franchisees and for your customers. So I want to dive into that part of the journey too as we go forward, Kris. But basically, I mean, just a brief overview where you're at, what ActivAge is, and I know we just recently launched in franchising.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so ActivAge is an adult day center concept. We cater to the senior population. We started our first adult day center back in 2018. Is when we first opened. We had been in senior care since 2011. My wife and I previously, we actually at 23 and 21 moved into an assisted living facility. Bought this abandoned building, did that, lived there for 3.5 years. But that was really our foot in the door in senior care. And then, we were kind of looking for that next opportunity. Adult day came about, and so we opened kind of our initial adult day center concept in 2018. At one point in time, I was like, asked the question, "Hey, what's your big, hairy, audacious goal?" And when we were in this kind of group that I was with, I wrote down 100 locations, and I've kind of like always felt like I wanted to do something large, but I just didn't know what that would be. But then when we came across adult daycare, I was like, I saw the power like that it had as far as transforming our members' lives who attend, but also giving their families the break that they desperately need. And I was hooked and just almost addicted to the idea of what adult day can do for folks. And so it was kind of in that moment that I'm like, all right, I want to create. I want to build 100. I want to open 100 adult day center locations across the country. And so how are we going to do that? And then that journey like led into a lot of other kind of like avenues that we could explore, but it ultimately led to franchising. Today we have a location in Port Charlotte that's up and running. We are opening our new flagship location, which is the building behind me, which will be in Sarasota. And then we actually have an 8,000 square foot adult day center, a 3,000 square foot franchise support center that's actually connected to our same building, that we'll be able to support all of our franchisees for years to come. So
It's a great vision, and you're executing on it. When we're evaluating businesses, I mean general business, but from a franchise perspective, the industry opportunity is always an important metric. I think
right.
with adult daycare, I mean the demographics and demand is overwhelming. And what I love about ActivAge is the way you've approached it, and you've said it, you're focused on members, their families, and now your franchisees. But
Yep.
Kris, I'm a sucker for a great brand. I mean, ActivAge, the branding, your website, and again, these aren't fluffy things. It's reflective of something in you and your team. I mean, it's really on point and it's really distinguishable from everything else out there.
I really appreciate that. We want to kind of take away from that stigma of the health, the senior care healthcare industry. I mean, because typically, like it's more medical focused, or like in our situation, I mean, our entire focus every single day, what we do here is making people laugh, smile, and ensure that they have fun. And so, it was cool because our brand almost kind of aligned with really what we're doing for our members every day. I mean, you go on the website, you see the colors, you see the font, the text, it all aligns with really what we're doing, actually in the center for members.
Yeah, and as we approach the franchising journey together, um, you hit a road bump, right? You started off as under a different brand name, and there were issues when we evaluated trademarks and registration. And I mean, I'm sure it wasn't a fun conversation when we had it, but boy, did you guys react in a positive way, and you took a great brand and created an even better one.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those like accidents that we weren't planning on that at the time, but then it just turned out to be like such a better outcome that we could have never expected. So originally I named the company after my wife. Her name is Chelsea, and we had started in senior living, and so it was Chelsea Place. And we had built a really good brand with that, and we kind of like at that point in time had fallen in love with the brand, the story, and really thought like there could be a lot of this could be a good brand to because it had a good brand story, right? And then we found out that there was a company up in New Jersey that had already trademarked that name Chelsea Place, and they happened to be in senior living. So we realized that we couldn't go that route, and so we went back to the drawing board. I mean, we had names on whiteboards all over the place, and one day I'm sitting there with this lady Rhonda, who was our kind of like membership concierge, and we're like brainstorming. I'm like Rhonda, what do you think of this? I'm like activate. I'm like we're like we're thinking of like thrive. Like we're thinking of like words that are kind of like active. They're like they're and so we're going through all these different things, and she's like, "What about ActivAge?" And I was like, "That's it," And I was like, "That's the one." And really, like just that name alone, kind of really was like a lot of inspiration for like it just speaks to who we serve, but also what we do. And so it was just one of those things where then we got with our company to do all the graphic design work, and they literally came back to us with we gave to them our ideas, inspiration, and they came back to us with these three different things. And I remember they were going through the first one. I'm like, oh, that's nice, maybe a little too hotel like, and then the other one, I'm like, that's okay, but it just didn't vibe. And then they went to this third one, and I was like, I'm like, oh my god, this is it, and in that moment, like it was like, oh, this is it, I'm sold. And they're like, yeah, we kind of knew you'd like this one, but it just spoke to really everything we do on a daily basis for our members.
Yeah, I mean, you live it. And then, in terms of the adult facilities and the daycare and whatnot. I mean, ActivAge is much more than just a brand, right? You're
Right.
focused on technology and operations and wanting franchisees build the box, get up and running, have those systems, and hopefully repeat many times. So,
100%.
what from a technology standpoint, what are some of the advantages and where are you focused in terms of what I think is an important question in franchising, which is franchise buyers want to know what will I be doing? How do I do it? And how do you help me do it? Like
Right.
how do you approach that, Kris?
Like it's on the technology side for like kind of
Yeah,
scalability. Yeah.
operation. Yeah, for
Yeah.
anyone, because as we're sitting here, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is a good industry. It's an
Yeah.
amazing brand. I'm a big fan when I watch Chris's YouTube videos. But a franchise buyer is going to say, or I would think would have a question of, what is it like if I do buy and own an active age? And hey, Kris, can I really do this? And how do you help me do this successfully?
Absolutely. So I mean, honestly, I think there's like, I mean, there's a lot of the operational stuff that's like, systems and processes and procedures, and kind of written out as how we do things. But I would say there's like really three areas that excite me the most is where we can take a lot of like the pain points off for people. And one of them is our activity programming software. So we like, developed, this kind of like, proprietary activity programming software that allows us to kind of pre-plan the day. But think of like if you were in a room and you saw this like nine 65-inch TVs strapped together. So you got this massive wall, like 16 feet wide by 9 feet tall, like television, like a movie theater size television, right? And that's like on one of the walls in our activity or in our in our club. What's cool about that is we have the software program that's tied into this like massive screen, and it literally like almost like a TV guide walks our entertainers. We call our activity directors entertainers, and it walks them through like what they're going to do from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so literally like the block could be a 15-minute block, it could be a half an hour or an hour. They click on the block, and then it provides them with 10 to 20 different videos or different pieces of reference for that particular activity at that time. So for instance, say exercise time at 10 o'clock, they click on the block and boom, 20 different exercise videos come up that were pre-programmed, by our home office team, on the creative side. They've been pre-programmed. So now that activity director or that entertainer doesn't have to think about, oh, what do I do today at 10? What do I do today at 11 or 12? Like, it's all pre-planned. It's all tied into our themes. We do, different themes every week. We have different parties every week. So all of these things are kind of like tied into, and they all match and in alignment with what we're actually doing in the center. But it takes a lot of the thinking out of the activity planning so that our entertainers can do what they do best, which is just have fun, engage with our members, and so we kind of look at it as like that program is like, the planning aspect of what we do. And then all of our entertainers kind of come around and, they might be working with groups of like 5 to 7 people where they're engaging them, and kind of being guided by what's on the massive screen in the room.
Kris, you said there were 3 things that excite you.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. So that was
yeah,
one.
no, I'm mad because I'm like, as someone interested, I'm writing this down because it is so powerful, right? I drove by I wouldn't have known it was adult daycare unless we'd worked with you and we learn about the industry. And when I look at the facility I passed compared to ActivAge, it just looks like a room with
Yeah.
table and chairs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And most of them are that way. I mean, that's the sad part. I mean, the industry itself, because when you look at assisted living or you look at home care, for the most part, the majority of the big players in those industries or your largest franchises, they don't deal with Medicaid. They're primarily private pay. They're focused on, middle to upper income America, and so most of those, places, they're accepting private pay, Visa, MasterCard, American Express. So we, in the adult day world, for whatever reason, the reason why it hasn't scaled, the reason why it's not at the same level that these assisted living or home care agencies are at, is because of the fact that it's been so Medicaid dependent. 80 to 90% of all adult day centers are primarily funded by Medicaid, and so there's never been a big player to come in and try to actually approach that private pay marketplace and create an experience that the family caregivers and the individuals in the private pay world are willing to pay for. So that's been a big thing. I feel like, why most of the adult day centers you're going to see are not going to be anything like what we do, and it can almost like cause confusion amongst the consumers because they go see that place and they're like, I'm not bringing mom there. Like, all she's gonna do is sit
No,
in the chairs all day.
it's almost heartbreaking when I drive by.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm thinking, you know what, ActivAge would be actually fun, to take someone and I'd feel
Yeah.
confident. Um,
Uh, and
what are the 2 others, Kris?
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love the,
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to make sure I share those too. So the other one I would say that's really big is our billing side of things. So what we do that's very unique that I don't know a lot of adult day centers that do it this way is we bill hourly in 15-minute increments, and including transportation. So like basically from the time that someone clocks into gets clocked in on our vans, or from the time they clock into our center or our club, to the time that they clock out, they're just billed like at an hourly rate of anywhere between 17 to 20 bucks an hour. And so we have like monthly memberships and different things, and that's why there's like a discounted rate. But we built like a custom billing software that all our franchisees have to worry about is just making sure that Mary's clocked in and that she's clocked out, and then it'll produce all of the invoices and the billing and all that stuff associated with the kind of the billing side of it. Tied into that too is all the like healthcare records and all that good stuff. But I guess my third thing that's really unique is that our CRM system. Not only have we built out probably like one of the most robust and thorough and very like intentional and thoughtful, pipelines for our CRM, but it's also something that like we're building a dedicated team who at the franchise support level is going to be nurturing all of those leads via phone call, text, an email, and supporting our franchisees in that journey so that they can focus on operations, they can focus on engagement, making sure they're, so we're going to take a lot of that burden of like, because a lot of times in adult daycare, especially, in an industry like this, we're not just, someone's not just buying ice cream. They're not just buying, food or, whatever it is. Like, this is kind of like a major decision in some ways. And so we kind of are typically stair stepping someone into like them becoming a member. Usually it's like an initial inquiry, then it's a tour maybe with the family, and then we offer their loved one a guest pass to come for the day. And then there's some other paperwork involved that the medical community might have to fill out. So you're kind of like walking families through this process, and you need someone that's like really good at nurturing that experience. And so we're going to centralize all of that nurturing, side of it, to really support our franchisees really, really well, and help them out on the CRM side.
Yeah, Kris, for me, it's franchise counsel and whatnot, and we work with our emerging brands. It's not easy when someone asks, what are those three compelling elements? And like in a very substantive way, like you've raised three important things, right? So
Yeah.
that's super critical. What's interesting oh, one thing I did want to mention. Let's talk, like, always love getting into negative things that really aren't negative, but they're important. And if I could share, maybe we got to go back and delete some video, but we won't. Um, we were talking a couple of weeks ago and we were going over, and we're not going to discuss financial performance here, but, I remember there was a point in time where, you're gaining traction and nothing related to ActivAge, but, where you're located in Florida, there were storms and shut you down, right? So what was
Yeah.
that like?
Yeah. So, it's interesting, like, pre-COVID, like we had like over the first 2 years, like, and I would say like the second year in, so from like month 12 to month 24, I like his just almost like, exponential growth. It was such a wild ride, because I'll never forget, like February of 2020, right? So we're going into that month, and it was our best month we had ever had. And in March, we had already, like, because of our memberships and the way they start, we knew we were already going to be up in March, 25% over what we were just at. Like, we just broke a record in February, and now we're going to be 25% above that record in March. And then March 14th, freaking good old COVID comes around, and it was just one of those like kind of wild experiences where you go from literally our best month ever to like having to close for 6 weeks. That wasn't fun. But when we reopened, we got back up to about 60-70% of where we were, and we maintained that for a little while. But it was still kind of a delicate time. But then as we're coming out of all of that, and really like everything's pumping again, we went through the rebranding, we built the franchise, we're like, there's so much stuff behind the scenes we had done during the last 2 years. Like, we sold our assisted living facility. We did a complete rebrand. We worked with SMB advisors to build the franchise. We finalized our FDD. Like, we're doing all this stuff behind the scenes. Now we're ready to just go crush it. Like, we had a lot of interest on the franchisee side. We're setting up our first discovery day to happen. This would now be October. Sorry, it was me. November of 2021. No, 2022. November of 2022, right? So this is a big moment. First discovery day. We have 5 people lined up, and then boom, Hurricane Ian comes like at the end of September, and it was this like a direct hit to Punta Gorda and Port Charlotte. I mean, and like our other office where our administrative team is, they're like our building was in Punta Gorda where the eye came through, and it was just one of those things where we lost that building. Our building here, our adult day center building, did okay. But it just decimated the area. So it wasn't so much like our physical structure or things was it wasn't a big thing like that we had to like we got lucky, because a lot of people, like the guy's roof next door to ours, like completely peeled off, and I was like pulling plywood out of our roof from his roof. Like, it was crazy. So anyways, long story short, it displaced a lot of our members. It displaced a lot of the individuals that would have normally come back for our snowbird season. They just chose not to come back to manage their repairs from up north, because most of the homes down here had so much significant roof damage or just almost catastrophic damage, that it was just a wild time. And we're coming out of that now, but it was definitely like we had to kind of rethink, how do we reapproach the franchising thing a little bit. But
I'm always looking for signals for our clients. Like I want to see them out there telling their story. And I see you on YouTube really educating people how to build an adult daycare business, which I think if I'm looking to buy as a franchisee or a franchise buyer, I'm going to gravitate toward you. So you're out there doing these things. What, as you franchise your business, um, what would be some advice you have for other business owners out there that may want to franchise or, anything like I wouldn't franchise if this were an issue, or here's how I would attack the process. What's some advice you have out there?
yeah, I think, we've learned so much over the last 2 years. Because I think I think when we had the idea for franchising, we had that idea at a time where I just knew we needed to scale, and we were trying to figure out how to do that. But I would say, like, during that entire process, we just have grown so much as individuals in our company that, like, looking back, I would say the biggest key change that we made is, we implemented EOS. I know you're familiar with EOS. When we implemented EOS, I felt like we became a completely different company, because it really taught us how to, like properly lead and steward the company, and man, and have meetings, and put projects in place where you can actually put roadmaps to completion dates and deadlines, and all of that stuff. Like, when we implemented that, like, I would say today, we're so much more of a sophisticated, like, almost like scientific with the way we manage our leads, scientific with the way that, we handle the nurturing process for our, for all of our new leads, even the way we do business development, sales, and marketing. So, we didn't have any of that stuff in place beforehand. So in a lot of ways, I think, I learned that I probably pulled the trigger on franchising about a year and a half too early. But I'm glad I got that out of the way when I did. So it's like one of those things where, even if we were a little early to that party, it's allowed me to learn a lot about franchising, where I feel like way more educated in the franchising world today. But I would have done EOS for, if I could do it all over. I would probably have done EOS first, and got all my stuff in place, and then added franchising on board, because when you're going to franchise a business, it becomes a very big distraction from your typical day-to-day operations. Like, when you're thinking about the rebranding, you're thinking about all the forms, you're going through the FDD, you're building all this stuff out. Like, all of this stuff is, becomes a massive distraction, big projects. And if you could put all that attention on your core business and just, dialed it in where, exactly, like your conversion rates, what's your retention, what's your average lifetime value of a customer, like all this stuff, where, like, now it's like, I feel like all we're doing is everything we're doing today is very predictable. A year and a half, 2 years ago, we didn't know any of that stuff, but today it's called all dialed in. And so I feel like we're ready now, but I don't know if I answered that question well, but
No, I'm glad you brought that up because it's a big philosophical issue of when is the right time to franchise your business. And one issue I have, it's almost like going to battle and burning the bridge, right? And your troops, we have to now go win this war versus staying on the other side of the bridge and thinking maybe I will, maybe I won't. Um, so what I'm a big believer of is that knowing, well, two things. Number one, that when you franchise your business, when you quote unquote become a franchisor and issue your FDD, everyone will congratulate you. And my point there is you don't deserve congratulations.
right.
No one does. We're just at the starting gate. We just
Yeah.
left the starting gate. Um, and if you take that mindset and add to it that after you franchise your business, you should look at the next 12 months as your launching period, learning franchising, helping your brand mature in your brand story, focusing on your EOS traction from a franchising standpoint, and having very mild expectations, right? So, still as a building process, I think that could be very powerful because I find even in your case, what you're describing is everything you want to see, a very sophisticated approach, very data driven, EOS driven, traction driven. focusing on lead management and how you're delivering for franchisees. And what I would say is, I think a lot of times that comes about from the hard work, but also you being in it as a franchisor now. And
Right.
you're very active in the franchise community, others aren't. So you're exploring what works, what doesn't work. And then when you realize, if you're genuine, is that, hey, if I'm going to articulate three really unique or what I think are amazing things about ActivAge, I need to be genuine about it. We need to live it and do it, which I know everything you brought up during this conversation, you guys have been working really hard to implement.
Yeah, and it took a while to like get to those places where I feel like you're confident in it. Like like for instance, like we brought on a new marketing person because throughout this journey we realized that like um, we're gonna it'll be a requirement where like every single ActivAge will have to have at least one person in charge of business development in the community, spreading awareness. So when we hired this person on, we built out this like we built out a 90-day like plan to use like when if you were to first start a center. And then we built out like a maintenance plan, and basically what they are is they're metrics that like she has to follow every single week. So she has like these 8 different activities, and she has to do all these 8 different things every single week. So we can have like a well balanced approach to the way we do business development. So we're not just like sending a sales and marketing lady out there to just, you know, I don't know, go figure it out or go spread the word. Like, no, we have a very scientific way of like, okay, we do these activities, we do these activities, we do 5 of these, 10 of these, 4 of those, and so like it was cool because we built this thing out, we tried it, we ran it for 90 days, and like today, we're like about 120 days into what we've built, with her, and like our lead flows has never been at the level that like it's our lead
Awesome.
flow today is like at a greater level, and this is from on the consumer facing side, but it's at a greater level today than it ever was even pre-COVID. And I was telling the girls, I'm like, we're not even in season yet. Like, can you imagine what all the work we did, and using this playbook, like what is that going to do for like season when we enter the winter time, and all of a sudden all the snowbirds are back in town. Like this is going to be unreal for us. Like we've never experienced probably this level of demand, as we go into the end of 2023, 2024. But it all comes down to like us taking a more like methodical, okay, how do I like, if I'm going to hold a franchisee accountable, to delivering or to being able to like be as successful as we are, like how do I like ensure that happens? Well, now we actually have something to hold them accountable to, where a year ago we didn't have that. Now we have a playbook where it's like, are they following those metrics? If they're not following those metrics, then they're probably not going to have the success that we're having, and it has everything to do with the fact that they didn't, or they did or they did not follow the playbook.
Right, and that's a shared obligation, right? These
Right.
franchisees, your future franchisees on board with you. It's not only now, it's their families, and it's that journey together that you guys are
and,
leading.
and now we can do it with confidence. Like we can go into that conversation with them, like, look, hey Bob, like we know if you just follow this playbook, like you just got to do the work, like and it's not going to happen overnight, but you're going to look back and you're going to pick your head up 90 to 100, 90 to 120 days from now, and you're going to see that momentum and that success, but you got to stick to the plan. Are you willing to stick to the plan for 90 to 120 days without seeing results, knowing that they will come? It's just going to take 2 or 3 months.
The Kris, as you're reflecting now, and like you're in this journey, you're at a key stage. Whether you're reflecting on ActivAge as a brand, your customers, families, and your future franchisees, like what are you feeling right now? What are you thinking about?
Like just about what the future looks like, or just like how everything's gone the last 3 years.
Yeah, how do you feel? Like, what are you thinking right now?
um I feel like we are in such a better place as an organization from a people standpoint. One of the other things about EOS that I loved is it really taught us what it means to get the right people in the right seat. And we didn't have that 2 years ago. So I look, we just made our last strategic hire that we knew we needed to make. So the other day I was like, man, finally, like the puzzle is all together. Like now it's go time. So I think about like how far we've come over the last two years. And I was telling like our team, I said, because they've been bought into this ride for a long time, like especially some of the ones that have been with me for a while. But we haven't made the level of progress that I would have hoped, or probably that I'm painting for them, when I think about the last 2, 3 years. But I look back and I'm like, the reality of it is that, it's not visible progress to the outside world, but what's happened on the inside as an organization is so foundationally important. Like we've done so much of the hard work from a foundation perspective that it's going to make the future so much easier. But so maybe everyone doesn't see it, or maybe they're not like, hey, you haven't sold a franchise yet, or whatever the case might be. But like, we have so many systems in place today, so much like foundation work that needed to be built, that has been built, that I feel like it's really only up here as we go into the future. I mean, like, I feel like now we can really just focus on selecting those right franchisees, helping to onboard them, helping them, with the construction component. Because I got an SBA 7A loan. We bought this building, like we've gone through the entire construction process. We know what everything is like, that they're going to be going through. We know how to navigate it. We know which things, for them to be aware of, that that maybe they wouldn't have considered, or I wouldn't even have known if I didn't go through this process myself with like the SBA 7A loan. Like, so there's so much that I feel like now we can speak from a place of experience and a place of confidence, because of all the mistakes we've made. I always joke with someone, like, look, I spent, I probably wasted $500,000 to $700,000 just so you don't have to. Like,
Right. And the bigger part too, you got every franchisee cares about what happens after I sign the franchise agreement. And you've said it, these are your words. When you guys have the playbook,
yeah.
entertainment, tracking time, managing operations, marketing, and scaling. And those are the critical things. So,
And
Kris, as we get, no, get,
no, I'm saying, I think, like, I think, what I'm most excited about now is really being able to, like, put so much more of my energy and effort, like, really all in on the franchising side of things. Now that we've taken care of the foundational stuff, it's, because I think I've been a little bit of like, one foot in franchising, one foot, back supporting our operation, where I feel like now it's like the team's got that. Now it's like, all right, both feet in franchise, and let's go run,
so we're on this road to 100 ActivAge locations, which I'm going to predict here and now it's going to go past that. But I think I would say, Kris, do I get invited to that 100th location?
Let's go. Heck yeah, we're gonna have to have a
All right.
huge celebration for that. I can't wait for
All
that.
right. So our team gets an invite, and we're going to be there for 100. And
We will,
Kris,
we, we
I
will
look,
we will have a party, man. We'll have a big party for that for sure.
and outside looking in, Kris, I'm so glad to be working together. But more importantly, outside looking in, there's some special stuff going on at ActivAge. And I think, you as a founder and as an entrepreneur, you know, not too long, just for two or 3 seconds, but you should pause and just take it all in because a lot of hard work and it's not going unnoticed.
I appreciate it, man. We're really, trying to make, I think, not only like, trying to make a difference in the franchising world, and really, do good for our franchisees. I mean, because every time I think about implementing something, I really think about, okay, how is this going to affect them? How can we make their life easier? What can we take off of their plate that we could just, centralize in our home office to enhance that, like, franchise or franchisee experience, And so I really think of them like how I think of our customers in a lot of ways. So, but then I also think about too, just like, I'm just excited, man. I'm grateful for where we're at. I know it's like, there's still a lot of hard work ahead of us. I know the next 2 to 5 years are probably going to be the hardest, when it comes to just, that learning curve of, bringing on your first franchisee, supporting them, helping them get open. But it's exciting, to see that, like, finally to see the brand, like, come to life, and, kind of like, see it to start to grow, and, gain that momentum, I guess,
Yeah, and that's wisdom, right? That you're reflecting on that challenge. But and as we wrap up, I think you said one of the most important things in franchising just a few seconds ago, which was that your franchisees are your customers. And
Yeah.
if you keep that in your heart, which I know you do, ActivAge is going to win in a big way.
Yeah, no, I like, I think about all the things like, even in the future, like I was telling our girls, I was like, one day we'll have like, our creative team, just like Starbucks or like some of these other companies, how you get that package, to put all the window clings on the, with the new specials and stuff. I was like, one of these days, like all of our activities will be sourced in our home office, and like every month, like our, franchise partners are going to get a little drop package, boom, and it'll have all the activities, all the stuff that like they're gonna need to do, for our members that week, and it'll be cool because it'll all be curated. And it'll be like one less trip to Michael's, one less trip, ordering online. It's just like all that stuff that we can do where it's just like it's just done for you. And so like I don't know, there's just all those like little things where we're like on that kind of product roadmap where we're just super excited because like there's gonna be so many things where I think 10, 15 years from now when someone buys an ActivAge, it'll be like, man, this is the freaking coolest thing ever. Like all I got to do is just make sure people are laughing and smiling. Like that's it. They handle the rest.
Kris, that's perfect, man. Kris, thank you so much.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you for your time.